Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Yes, I hydrate. Shut the fuck up. So, we have in store for you some of the most gloriously petty shit I have ever seen. It is fucking amazing, and all of you should bask in the gloriousness of how fantastic this is. I mean, this is some seriously politically petty shit, but it proves the point, and it just goes to show that everybody on the left is pretty much full of shit. It's fantastic. Let's get into it. So, if you've been living under a rock, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, the man, the myth, the legend, claimed responsibility for loading up approximately 50 illegal immigrants and putting them on a plane and flying them out to Martha's Vineyard. It's a thing of beauty. So, what happened? Of course, they panicked. They freaked out. They made a big spectacle out of it in their liberal news. Oh, look what we have to do to save these poor illegal migrants that were wearing backpacks and totally fine. But they were dropped off in your sanctuary city where you screamed on the media, like, oh, this is we're gonna fight the Republicans. We're gonna make a sanctuary city for all these migrants because people aren't illegal. And they panicked and they scrambled. You know why they panicked and they scrambled? Because they didn't know what the fuck to do, because they don't deal with the issue. Really, ever. So, of course, President Biden jumped on the news and was clamoring for states and senators and governors and people in all walks of government to stand up and assist in this trying time as Martha's Vineyard was not prepared to handle this, and these poor migrants, they were not prepared to handle this. We need to save everyone, because that is what the Democrats do, is they scream from the mountaintops. They're going to save the world. And then they only do something when it benefits the rich white people in Martha's Vineyard. You know, it's funny because they say conservatives are all about the rich white man, but the first time that this asshole fucking lifted a finger to do anything about the migrant issues was when it affected rich white people in Massachusetts. But Trump's the racist. Got it. So, on a little side detour, Governor Abbott of Texas, that glorious son of a bitch, also loaded up a hundred illegal immigrants on a bus and shipped them up to D.C. Why, you might ask? Thanks for asking. So Kamala Harris, in her infinite stupidity, got on the news and said, there's no border problem. There's no border crisis. We've got it all under control. Everything's fantastic. I don't know what these southern states are complaining about. They're full of shit. So he loaded up 100 migrant workers, or he loaded up 100 illegal immigrants and sent them on a bus to D.C. And they dropped them off right outside Kamala Harris's home. Oh, they scrambled. Secret Service scrambled quick. Everybody was freaking out. Because again, they don't deal with the problem. The problem that they cover their eyes and say, oh, there's no problem, there's no problem. Yeah, there's no problem if you put your head in the sand and ignore it. I guess there's no problem then, maybe? I don't know. So, back to Ron DeSantis. So, Ron DeSantis then took to a press conference where he was taking ownership of the decision to send these migrants to Martha's Vineyard. What did Governor DeSantis have to say? Let's take a gander.
I also was a little bit perplexed when I heard that the president is scrambling to get his cabinet together to try to address the fact that you have governors who are helping to relocate illegal aliens to sanctuary cities. Now, he didn't scramble to get his cabinet together when we had millions of people illegally pouring across the southern border. He didn't scramble to get his cabinet together when you had 53 migrants die in some trailer in Texas because they were neglected by the federal government. You didn't see him scramble to get his cabinet together when we had Americans that were victimized by criminal aliens that he led across the border. You didn't see him scramble to get his cabinet together when we hit record fentanyl deaths, which that fentanyl is coming across his open border. It's only when you have 50 illegal aliens end up in a very wealthy, rich sanctuary enclave that he decides to scramble on this. And so I think what we are doing I think what we're continuing to do is use every tool at our disposal to insulate the state of Florida from the negative ramifications of his reckless border policies. And yes, that involves helping with transport. It involves suing on catch and release, which we have done. It's involved making sure that contractors are held accountable if they're facilitating this into our state. And we have a statewide grand jury that's looking at different types of practices that may be going on in the state that's exacerbating the problem. And so, the end of the day, this is a massive policy failure by the president. This is a massive and intentional policy that is causing huge amount of damage all across the country, and it's all rooted in a failure to take care that the laws are faithfully executed and to fulfill his oath of office. And so instead of scrambling and worrying about a bunch of rich people and having 50, and oh, by the way, they already bust them out. They're gone. They said we want everyone, no one's illegal, and they're gone within 48 hours. And so why not actually look at what's going on? There were more Acela corporate journalists in Martha's Vineyard today than have ever gone down to the southern border to look what's going on. Why don't you go down there and look what some of those communities have to deal with every day?
It's funny. If you guys were so adamant about solving the migrant issues and you were claiming yourself to be a sanctuary city to combat all these evil Republican states, why weren't you prepared? It's not like what was sent to Martha's Vineyard and what was sent to DC was a drop in the bucket. It wasn't even half of a fraction of a percent of what comes through the border every single day, and these border states have to deal with. And you can't handle combined between the two places 150 illegal aliens. 150. Yeah, good job, sanctuary states. So we're just going to scramble like it's DEFCON fucking end of the world scenario because some illegal aliens went to a sanctuary state where they're supposed to be going. It's real easy to sit back and say, oh, we're a sanctuary state. We're going to take care of these people. When you don't have to actually do it. You don't have to actually do anything other than sit up on your pedestal and peacock to other people and go and virtue signal like with every fucking thing else that you do. It's real easy to virtue signal while other people are fucking dealing with the mess. And literally, the tiniest little bit of people they could have sent your way and you had a colossal, epic meltdown. Not a good sign.
I also was a little bit perplexed when I heard that the president is scrambling to get his cabinet together to try to address the fact that you have governors who are helping to relocate illegal aliens to sanctuary cities.
So the border is being overwhelmed and overrun by trafficking of both drugs and people, mostly children. It is allowing criminals to come across the border unvetted. We have a litany of fucking problems, and this jackass and his fucking crew of stooges stands up and says, oh, there's no problem, everything's fine. But you're damn right, when it was in his back fucking yard, all of a sudden he's paranoid and he's panicked about these illegal immigrants that are coming across the border. All of a sudden it's a fucking problem.
Now, he didn't scramble to get his cabinet together when we had millions of people illegally pouring across the southern border. He didn't scramble to get his cabinet together when you had 53 migrants die in some trailer in Texas because they were neglected by the federal government. You didn't see him scramble to get his cabinet together when we had Americans that were victimized by criminal aliens that he led across the border. You didn't see him scramble to get his cabinet together when we hit record fentanyl deaths, which that fentanyl is coming across his open border.
Exactly. These boneheads talk all this shit about how they're all about the people, all about the people. All we care about is taking care of people, treating people like people, until those people that they deem to be inferior are encroaching on rich white motherfuckers. Then all of a sudden it's a problem. Now we can't. We gotta scramble quickly before they taint our Martha's Vineyard. And 100%. This is Florida, and these border states are constantly trying to make up for the failings of his bullshit ass regime.
At the end of the day, this is a massive policy failure by the president. This is a massive and intentional policy that is causing huge amount of damage all across the country, and it's all rooted in a failure to take care that the laws are faithfully executed and to fulfill his oath of office. And so instead of scrambling and worrying about a bunch of rich people and having 50, and oh, by the way, they already bust them out. They're gone. They said we want everyone, no one's illegal, and they're gone within 48 hours. And so why not actually look at what's going on? There were more Acela corporate journalists in Martha's Vineyard today than have ever gone down to the southern border to look what's going on. Why don't you go down there and look what some of those communities have to deal with every day?
And as usual, this man hits it out of the park, hits the nail on the head. These assholes have been talking shit. Nobody went down to the southern border until AOC was standing outside on the fence in her white suit, having a tragic meltdown. Then there were reporters there. They've been screaming for members of Congress and people in the upper echelon of politics to come out here and take a look at the issues at the border. No one wanted to go. No one set foot down there. Our czar of the border never went down there. Kamala Harris never even visited the border. She hasn't even been. All the time she's been in office, she's never been. But she's going to say that the border's secure and the border's safe and everything's fine. Interesting how that works. This is failed policies by a shitty regime, and on top of being failed policies, they're intentional policies that are being done negligently to harm the American people. It's that simple. Intentional negligence. This man is a shit president, and if you voted for him, you should be embarrassed.